This year I've vlogged my entire Pacific Crest Trail through hike. All day, every day I put out 74 videos on trail, and now I'm gonna share with you how I did it, what it was like, my best tips and tricks. This feels like kind of a niche topic, but a bunch of you guys are asking about my process. Maybe you are interested in vlogging your through hike, or maybe you just wanna hear more about behind the scenes, because the funny thing is, for those of you that watch the videos, you got to see my entire hike, but you were missing like this huge element of it, which is everything that went into creating the videos. So first of all, my PCT series did really well. I was really proud of how all the videos came out. You guys seemed to really enjoy them. And so how did I do it? Quick backstory, I didn't just like start on the PCT. I started making videos over 7 years ago when I did the Appalachian Trail, and they were really bad. Like, I'm embarrassed that some of you guys are still watching those. So I started my channel back then just kind of for fun, to document my hike, and then I just kept making videos ever since. Sometimes about random shit, sometimes smaller hikes. I did the Colorado Trail and the Long Trail, and I just progressively got better and better at it over the years through experience. I still feel like I'm really amateur. I don't consider myself a professional, but hopefully I've gotten to the point now where I can at least share some tips and tricks and provide some value for you. I'm gonna break this video into like 3 segments: filming, editing, and posting. So first, filming. I just used my phone and a tripod. That's all I had for gear. Currently I'm using a camera. I do think cameras are much better quality, but I've brought cameras on hikes before and I just think it's a pain in the ass carrying batteries and charging those batteries and transferring all the footage to your phone, and yeah, it's just not what I want to do. I feel like it takes away from my hike, so I just keep it simple and use my phone. I don't use a selfie stick or anything. The phones have like the 0.5 going this way, so I'll set it on 0.5 and then shoot myself this way rather than the front-facing camera. I think that looks better and shows more of the background in the frame. I do use a small little tripod that I keep on my front chest strap, and then I can use that for like setup shots when I'm, you know, hiking down the trail, setting up my tent or whatever. So super simple. That's all you need to get started. Now, what is my process for filming? Everybody's process is probably gonna look different depending on your style of video, but here are some of my best tips, I guess. First of all, find your style. So for example, for me, my personal style is I like to keep things like fun and quick and entertaining. I like lots of different shots from different angles, point of view, tripod, whatever, and then quick clips of that to kind of like transition through the day. And I don't like to spend like long periods of time talking to the camera because I just feel like that drags on and I don't have the voice for that. So I'll kind of flow between like some of the monotonous routine stuff, setting up my tent, tying my shoes in the morning, and then I'll narrate a little bit about what's going on, and then I'll cut to some hiking montage shots set to music, and then back to narrating, and yeah, I just try to keep it moving and fun. So that's my style, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the right way to do it. You can find whatever style you want. Some people talk a lot more to the camera, or some people do completely silent videos and it's just a visual interpretation of their hike. So finding your style is gonna help determine what you're filming. Next tip, tell a story. Most people don't really care about a video that it's like, okay, I woke up at this time and then I brushed my teeth and then I started hiking and then I set up camp. It just isn't very compelling. And so if you can find the storyline within your day or 2 days in that video, that's gonna grab people more and keep them watching to the end. So sometimes a story is very easy to find. Like, for example, I'm gonna attempt to summit Mount Whitney today. So you very obviously just start the video with, I'm gonna try to summit Mount Whitney and I'm nervous about that because blah blah blah. And then you go about your day and film yourself trying to summit Mount Whitney. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, but there's your story. Easy peasy. The times that it's harder to find the story and tell a story is when you're like in bumfuck Northern California and literally nothing is going on for the next 2 days. So what do you even talk about to like keep it exciting? So you want to really think about, like, you're not trying to just make up a storyline, that's not what I'm saying, but you want to like really think about what is going on right now that would be of interest to people. So there was a couple of days that was like really hot, and so I just titled the video like, it's so hot out, and I talked about the temperatures, and that ended up being like a hit video for whatever reason. So like thinking ahead about what might happen and how you can turn that into a story. Or different approach would be to find something in your day to sort of make like the centerpiece of the video, to make it into like a topic. So my morning routine on trail, or how to hang a bear bag, or whatever. So you can still vlog and document, but there's like a point to the video. I'm not great about doing this. I always think I'm gonna do this, and then what happens on trail sometimes is it's just like busy, bang, 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 things are happening, and I don't like spend the time to like think about it, so I just start filming, and then I just let it turn into whatever it's gonna turn into. But that's problematic because I end up with like all this random footage that isn't necessarily cohesive, and then it takes me forever to edit because I'm trying to go through it and sort of find the story, if that makes sense. Tip number 3, be authentic. This feels like an obvious one. Everyone is striving to do that, but it takes a lot of practice, which sounds like it doesn't even make sense. How do you practice being authentic? But here's the thing, when you're filming yourself and you get the camera out, you can't possibly be candid because you're in control of the camera on you. So on some level, you are thinking about what you're going to say or do, or you're aware that people are going to be watching this and how they're going to perceive it. Most people, or at least I, get camera shy, and so that sort of changes what comes out of your mouth. So obviously, with more practice and experience, like, you get more comfortable on camera and you can be yourself more. I try to remember to like talk to the camera like as if I was talking to a friend or a client or something like that. Can be helpful. But the other side of authenticity that I think I've really practiced over the years and people appreciate in my videos is trying to show like all sides of the hike. The good, the bad, the ugly. And that is really not an easy thing to do. When you're in a really shitty situation and it's pouring rain out and you gotta set up your tent, like the last thing you wanna do is set up the camera and the tripod and take more time to film that when in the moment you're like stressed out and flustered and want to just get your tent set up as fast as possible. But that's something that I try to do because most people don't do that. When it's really hard is when it's hard to film. When I'm crying trying to summit Mount Whitney because I think I'm gonna die because I'm cold, like the last natural reaction you're gonna have is to get the camera out in that moment and film yourself. So that does take practice. People's natural reaction is usually to, like, in a bad situation or an emotional situation, is to just like get through the situation. That's the priority. And then after the fact, they're gonna sit there and talk to the camera for 5 minutes and explain what happened. But that's not as impactful as showing it. Which brings me to my next tip. Show, don't tell. I feel like Evan, my hiking partner that I hiked the Appalachian Trail and the Colorado Trail with, he's amazing at creating videos, although he's semi-retired at it, I guess, but he's the one that told me that tip. So the more you can like bring the viewer with you through the process of what's going on as it's happening, instead of like telling about it after the fact, the more impactful it's gonna be. So kind of to that point, a question that I got a lot was like, does this whole thing take away from the hiking experience. And as far as filming goes, in some ways I don't think it takes away from it. I think it adds value. Like, I really enjoy doing it. So throughout the day, I'm trying to find like little flowers or things to film. I feel like it helps me like notice things more and like be present in a way. It also gives me something like creative to think about while I'm hiking, like how I'm gonna put the video together, what I want to talk about. And it's really fun for me. But where it does take away from the hike, back to the show don't tell part, is when you're experiencing something either really amazing or really difficult. Either way, I'm trying to bring you along with me and have you also experience that first reaction when I summit Mount Whitney or finally make it to town after a 50-mile night or whatever it is. And so I feel like I don't 100% get to like be in that moment and fully experience that moment. My priority is getting out the camera first so that you can experience it with me. So that does take away from the hike a little bit, but those are only like select moments, and there's a lot of monotony in the hike. So like I said, outside of those things, it does like entertain me throughout the day. So there's that. The other area where I feel like this whole thing does take away from my hike is the editing process. So let's talk about that. So first of all, lots of you have asked, what do I use to edit? Music, sound effects, stuff like that. I just use an app on my phone. It's called Video Leap. I've been using it since 2017. I just stumbled upon it back then and have used it ever since. So I haven't played around with lots of different apps or editing software on computers or anything like that. I don't have a lot to compare to, but I think because of the rise of TikTok and Reels and lots of people being into editing now, there's probably lots of options out there. I know a lot of people use CapCut. I'm sure most of them have similar features. Video Leap to me is like easy to use in a basic way, and then as you get better at it, there are a lot of features that you can start to do more complicated edits. As for music and sound effects, I use a service called Epidemic Sound. It's a monthly subscription, and it's a whole library of all different genres of music that if you pay for the service, you don't have like the whole copyright issue, because on YouTube you can't use like real copyright music. So my process for editing, where to begin? Every single day that I'm on trail, I'm filming like a bunch of clips. So at the end of the day, I take all of that day's footage and upload them into Video Leap as a new project. And then I label it as day 53 or whatever day it is. That makes my library of projects like really easy to, depending on which video I'm working on, I can just find the day and jump back in. So at the end of each day, I start that new project, and then my goal is to get through my first pass. That's what I call it, where typically I have anywhere from like 20 minutes to an hour of footage from the day, and I'm trying to cut that down to like 10 minutes if possible. So my first pass is just going through really quickly and cutting out everything that I know I'm not gonna use. So for example, like when I do a walk by tripod shot, that's gonna be like a 30-second clip because I set up the camera, walk by, walk back, typical influencer shit, and I'm only gonna be using like 2 seconds of that clip when I walk by, so I can off the bat cut out that other 28 seconds of the clip. Or if I'm setting up my tent, I'm usually only using like a couple little pieces of that. So like 5 to 10 seconds total, and it's like a 5-minute video because I just filmed the whole thing straight through. So if at the end of the night I can get through my first pass, cutting down 40 minutes of footage down to 10 minutes of footage, I'm happy with that. That's like my bare minimum. Then, whether it's that night or after the fact, I'm gonna go through on my second pass. So my second pass is when I add music. So if I kind of have like hiking montage clips, I'll add a music overlay over those clips, and then I'll trim down those clips even shorter, trying to time it to the beat of the music. I also might get a little more nitpicky on that second pass with like taking out some pauses or ums when I'm talking, anything to just make it quicker and a little bit shorter. Then my third and final pass when I'm editing is so I usually put like 2 or 3 days together in a video. So I've got day 53 and day 54, and those are both done, first pass, second pass. So I'll export those clips and then re-upload them into like a new project together. So now I have my 18-minute video of day 53 and 54 with music. Everything is cut out of it, and so now I'm just doing final touches on it, which is usually text, any little sound effects. Sometimes I take like screenshots of, you know, the navigation app or whatever, and so I'm adding just those like last details, and then we're done. We export that whole project, and that video is completed, and now we can upload it. Before I talk about uploading, I want to talk a little bit about editing and time management, because like I said, the editing process is where it impacts my hike the most, because it is very time consuming. The way I used to edit videos when I first started back on the Appalachian Trail, I was doing things a lot more simply. I wasn't filming as much, and so I would usually spend like 1 hour a night on trail in my tent editing. As my style has evolved over the years and I film a lot more, now it's turned into usually 2 to 3 hours a night editing, which is crazy. Like, through hiking is hard enough as it is, and then you're adding like I was gonna say full-time job, but maybe a part-time job on top of that. It's a lot to keep up with. And so how do you have 2 to 3 hours a night to edit? Like, you have to give up something in your hike in order to create that amount of time. So for me, my routine was usually waking up really early, starting to hike early, hiking those miles as fast as I possibly can throughout the day. Maybe not hiking as big of miles as some people do, getting to camp early, doing all my chores, and then having that window at the end of the night to edit. So what I'm missing out on my hike is sleeping in a little bit, or taking my sweet ass time throughout the day while hiking, spending more time like enjoying swimming in this lake on lunch, or pushing myself to hike bigger miles, or I'm missing out on time in camp, which for most people is like a fun social part of the hike. Like, you can ask anybody that I hiked with, people are like hanging out, talking story, having a grand old time at camp, and I'm like, bye, I gotta be in my tent editing. I also was giving up sleep at one point in my hike. When we were in the Sierra, we would start so early in the morning, 2, 3 in the morning, and hike till like midday, and then at camp, Jackson and Indy would take a nap for an hour or 2 before dinner, then have dinner, and then go to bed early, like 7 o'clock, because we're getting up at 2 or 3. And I didn't do that. When we got to camp, would take advantage of that time to edit and then have dinner, and then I would continue staying up and editing, and I wouldn't go to bed till 8:30, 9. So I was literally like missing out on sleep. I was probably sleeping 4 or 5 hours a night, and I think that really influenced my mental state through the Sierra, which was such a difficult section. And yeah, do I regret that? I don't know. I mean, for me, the videos are a priority, so I was willing to give up some of those things in order to be consistent and stay on track with them and put these out there. But not everybody would be willing to do that. I was also missing out on time in town. So town stops are not really that restful. You've got all your chores to do, you gotta resupply, grocery store, shower, laundry, all the things. But most people would have a little bit of free time in town to, you know, go out to dinner or whatever. For me, that free time in town was spent catching up on videos. Throughout the week, usually I would, at least for each day, be able to get through the first pass, maybe the second pass. And then in town, I was typically getting to the third pass, finalizing things, but then I've got to upload too. So depending on the phone service or Wi-Fi connection, sometimes it could take a really long time to upload a video. And then once it's uploaded, you've got to do thumbnail, title, and description and schedule them out. So that's what I wanted to talk about as far as posting goes. The way I would do it is have the videos delayed a little bit, because as you have now heard about, it took me a while to get through all the editing process, and I can only upload when I'm in town and have Wi-Fi. So my videos kind of varied. They were usually delayed anywhere from a week to 3 weeks on trail. I also was going for consistency. I wanted a video to come out like every 3 days. So usually there was 2 days in a video. So as I progressed on my hike, that kind of gave me more of a buffer. So at one point they were we're like 3 weeks delayed. But yeah, when you upload, you can schedule it out. So that would be my tip there, is to at least have somewhat of a delay so that you're not like scrambling if you get behind or you aren't in a town. Like some towns, the Wi-Fi was shit. It wasn't even worth uploading there. I'd just wait till the next town. So to wrap up, was it worth it? For me, it was. Like I said, this is a priority for me. I enjoy doing it. It's a creative outlet for me. It's a hobby, a passion, and I love doing it. Like, money aside. I haven't really talked about that, but when I first started doing YouTube, I wasn't making money at all. Then I got monetized, started making money, but it was so little that if you actually broke down like the hours you spent, figured out how much you made an hour, not worth it. This is not a get rich quick scheme. So my recommendation would be, like, don't start doing this if you're in it for the money or the fame. Like, it takes a really long time, or at least it did for me, and probably for the average person, a really long time to like build up to the point where you find success in it, meaning numbers, analytics, money, things like that. I suppose some people off the bat just become big, but I don't think that's a reasonable expectation. So why are you doing it? Do you want to just kind of for fun, document for friends and family and yourself? Then maybe you could spend less time editing and just like low-key do it, and it doesn't impact your hike that much. Or do you want to like really turn this into a thing? And if so, just be prepared that it may take a long time. Like, have reasonable expectations. I think YouTube is a combination of the effort you put in and then luck, talent, and timing. Like everything in life, I guess. I just can't imagine like going through all of that if I didn't really like enjoy video editing and documenting. So I think that about wraps this up. I hope I answered all of your questions about my process. I'm gonna try to be better about replying to comments. So if you have any more questions on this topic, leave them in the comments. I will be back for another video at some point. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do next. I was thinking about maybe like comparing the Pacific Crest Trail to the Appalachian Trail. Some of you guys were curious about that. Let me know what you think, and have the best day. See you later.